right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I've got a couple of interesting stories for you guys today. The first story that I've got for you guys today, the latest physique update from Logan Franklin. And right now, I think we'd be right around 3 weeks out, maybe a little bit under, from the Florida Pro, which is the show that Logan is doing to qualify for the Classic Physique Olympia. This update was posted by his coach, Patrick Torr, where I think it goes without saying that he looks really impressive here. I think what really jumps out to me is it looks like he's added some size to his chest, to his lats. He looks like he's a little bit denser muscularly. And of course, it looks like he's in really good condition. And I've said this to Logan, and I think I've said this to you guys on video a few times, but Logan's look at the Arnold Classic Ohio this year, especially the condition that he brought, but also just the classic look that his physique has. I think he's a guy that really embodies that classic look. But that look at the Arnold this year was probably one of my favorite classic physiques. And right now, in the absence of Chris Bumstead, Logan's physique is probably my favorite classic physique in the league right now. And we saw that guest posing from this past weekend at the Lee Labrada Classic where he looked incredible there. Really, thinking about how that was kind of a homage to the Arnold posing at the museum. I think Logan really embodied kind of that Arnold look in that guest posing, and I think it makes you appreciate his physique even more when you're really talking about what classic physique is. And of course, it's very subjective. Different people like different classic physiques and have a different idea of what classic is to them. But when you think about classic physique kind of being something that harkens back to the 70s era of bodybuilding, and you think about who was kind of the face of that era, which I think is undisputedly Arnold, watching Logan pose and his physique, I think, really embodies that kind of taller, classic look. And again, it looks like he's added size here. I think that has been one of the main critiques with Logan, especially facing somebody like Mike Sommerfeld, who's a much more muscular version of a classic physique. And I think as you watch this posing video, this recent update of Logan, I think his legs look bigger here too. And I think that was one of the big things against Mike, because Mike has a crazy lower body, super muscular. And I think Logan is looking a bit more competitive here with the added size. I mean, he's definitely added some thickness to his back. I think that's undeniable. The legs look a little bit fuller here. Great condition. Assuming he qualifies for the Olympia, because I don't want to put the cart before the horse here, I think this will be his best Olympia showing that he's ever had. And I think even minus any improvements, so let's say you just took that exact Logan Franklin from the Arnold, Ohio, I think that version of Logan Franklin should be first call-out at the Olympia. Now, if he's improved, he's added size, he's bigger on stage, brings that same condition, I think there's no doubt he would be first call-out at the Olympia. I think the Classic Physique Olympia is going to be a really interesting one this year, and I think it's going to be one of these years, especially in the absence of Chris Bumstead, where I feel like some guys that maybe haven't made that big Olympia statement yet, they make it this year. And I think Logan is going to be one of those guys. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Now, next up in the news, we've talked a lot about the Texas Pro, which is this weekend's open show qualifier for the Olympia. But also this weekend is the Masters Olympia. Now, it feels like not a lot of people have been talking about the Masters Olympia, and it seems like way more people are interested in the Texas Pro, which is a huge compliment to the Texas Pro lineup. But I was just looking at the finalized competitor list for the Masters Olympia, which, again, is this weekend, and I know not a lot of people have been talking about it, and I can kind of see why looking at this lineup. So let's go over this lineup here. I'll tell you some of the names that stand out, and I'll give my thoughts on it here. So for open Masters bodybuilding, so Masters 40+, you've got Odilon Batista, Slavoj Bednar, Alexander Besedin, Billy Bogue, Phil Clahar, Brandon Corbett, Marcelo Pedro de Cruz, Brian Garrison, Dorian Haywood, Daniel Hughes, Domenico Intermaggio, Kenneth Jackson, Young Boom Kim, Walter Martin, Jung So Park, Logan Robson, Ray Short, Fred Biggie Smalls, Hernan Tabernacky, Mariusz Tomzik, and Todd Whiting. So I think for most people looking at this list, there's probably only about half a dozen names that even jump out to you from this list. I think for me, Phil Clahar is probably the big one. Also, it's good to see Fred Biggie Smalls is back. I'll show you guys some updates from both of them. Dorian Haywood's name jumps out to me here. But frankly, it surprises me with the Masters Olympia being such a prestigious title. It really surprises me that it doesn't have more interest from top-level pros that are 40 plus, because we're not talking about 45 plus, 50 plus. It's not like a extremely high age bracket. There's a lot of top-level pros and former top-level pros that are just over 40. And I get that it's kind of inconvenient because it is, basically right before the actual Olympia, and it's in Tokyo, Japan, which is not like is a very close location for very many people. It's a lot of travel. But you think about, Big Ramy is 40. Brandon Curry's over 40. William Bonac's over 40. I just talked about Rolly Winkler in a short video yesterday. He's over 40. I'm surprised to see that Kamal El-Gargni is not back here to defend his title. Because, look, I know that it's been gone. The Masters Olympia has been gone for a while, but I still feel like it's a prestigious Olympia title. And I don't think the prize money is anything massive or crazy. I'm just surprised we're not seeing bigger names do this show. I think it is a prestigious title, and I think, if you had, there was speculation about Kai Green, there was speculation about Phil Heath, both guys obviously over 40. Hell, even somebody like Jay Cutler, who's over 50 now. This would be a pretty winnable show for almost any former top-level Olympian that you can think of, especially if they're between 40 and 50 years old. And frankly, I think the Texas Pro lineup is deeper than this Masters Olympia. I think it's a lot more competitive. And it just surprises me because I'm glad that they brought this show back. I love the concept of a Masters Olympia. I think it's a really cool idea. And it had been gone for a while before they brought it back in 2023, and they skipped a year. Now here we are in 2025. I'm glad it's back, but it seems like it just doesn't have that star power behind it to really get people talking. I mean, between Texas and Tampa, I almost forgot the Masters Olympia was happening this weekend. I haven't even thought about it because there's not really a good storyline or like a really big name return. Now, like I said, the guy that stands out the most to me in this lineup is going to be Phil Clahar. I saw this update that he posted on his story. It was a repost from Muscle Discord. This is the only recent update that I've seen of Phil, and apparently this was 10 days out from the show. Now, the reason why I say that Phil really stands out in this lineup is, as far as recent placings, and as far as winning a show and having been to the Olympia in general, there's not very many guys on this list that have even qualified ever for the regular Open Olympia. So for that reason, Phil did it recently. He stands out to me. In 2023, he had a really good year. He won the Orlando Pro in 2023. He was third at the 2023 Masters Olympia, so he was top three the last time around. And at the Olympia, he got to go to the Olympia, he was 16th, so essentially last place. But still, having been to the Olympia, let alone recently, I think puts him head and shoulders above most of the guys in this lineup. Having won an Open Pro show, again, recently, within the last 2 years, again, I think puts him head and shoulders above most of this lineup. Now, to be fair, it was a little bit different last year in 2024. He was 16th at the Tampa Pro and 13th at the Chicago Pro, so not as good of a year. But if you go back to that 2023 Masters Olympia, Kamal El-Gargni won, Max Charles was second, Phil Clahar was third. Neither Max nor Kamal are listed in this finalized lineup. Now, there was like an early version of their competitor list where Max Charles was listed, but for some reason he's no longer listed. Now, another big standout to me in this lineup is Fred Smalls. I'm going to show you guys some of Fred's recent updates that were from his Instagram. So another guy that at the last Masters Olympia, he was right behind Phil Clahar. He was fourth at the 2023 Masters Olympia. And again, those top two guys from 2023 are not even going to be there. The Open Tampa Pro, he was eighth in 2023. And that same year, he had won the Masters Tampa Pro. Going back to 2021, he was eighth at the Cali Pro. Then there's a big gap from 2018 to 2021. But in 2018, ninth at the Indy Pro, 11th at the Arnold Classic. 2017, his best placing was second at the Chicago Pro. So he's got some decent recent placings. So he's another guy that really stands out here to me. And then again, he competed in the inaugural comeback of the Masters Olympia. And to be fair, I mean, he was qualified for the Olympia several times in the early 2010s and competed in the Olympia several times in the early 2010s. But to be fair, this is why I say I think Phil has the advantage. This was like 10, 15 years ago when Fred was competing in several Olympias. Now, he placed outside of the top 10, I believe, at every single one. But I think the fact that Phil Clahar was there, 2 years ago, winning shows 2 years ago, I think puts him ahead of the pack here. Now, one of the other names that stood out to me here was Dorian Haywood, and one of the reasons why is he's been a very active pro over the last, 10 years, really. He competes a lot, and he's on the younger side of this 40-plus age category. Just last year, he competed 5 times. He was 8th at the Texas Pro, 12th in Tampa, 10th at the Cali Pro, 13th New York Pro. He won the Daytona Pro, which I believe was a Masters show. 2023 competed twice. 2022 competed 5 times. 5 shows in 2021, 3 shows in 2020. He was very active and still is. In this update, which was from, I believe, about a week out, he looks good. He's got younger-looking muscle. Like I said, he's on the younger end of that spectrum. And I think that's probably going to put him in a good spot in this lineup. Those are kind of the names that I'm eyeballing and that I'm more familiar with of this grouping. But looking at this lineup again, I mean, honestly, I'm more excited to watch the Texas Pro, and I think it's going to be more competitive and probably more compelling than the top 6 at the Masters Olympia, which I think is saying something. And it could be the location. I mean, I don't see why you wouldn't want a Masters Olympia title. I would like to see somebody like William Bonac, for example. I think this would be a great show for a guy like Bonac to do. He's over 40. He's still on top of his game. He competes all throughout the year. This is a great show for somebody like Bonac. And I get it. It's close to the Olympia. A lot of the guys that are top Olympians right now, they're not going to, if they're already qualified, they're not going to compete. We're just getting a bit too close, and they're focused on their Olympia preps. But, I'm still going to watch both. I'm going to watch the Masters Olympia and the Texas Pro. I'm just surprised we're not seeing some heavier hitters here. And I don't say that to disrespect the guys that are competing, but I think this is part of the reason they got rid of the Masters Olympia in the first place. The turnout just wasn't good as far as from a competitive standpoint. Then they brought it back in 2023 and took that year off in 2024 with really no explanation why. And again, I think the reason kind of was nobody really showed up to do it. Like, no big names really showed up to do it. Kamal is a big name. He's a 212 Mr. Olympia champ. But I really don't think that 2023 Masters Olympia drew that much interest, and I think that's why they didn't do it in 2024. So I make that point of this lineup being a little bit thin to say that hopefully this doesn't lead to them not doing it next year, because I would like to see the Masters Olympia continue, and I think as it grows back its popularity, I think maybe we will see some of these bigger names jump in. And I kind of wonder, like earlier this year, Brandon Curry was going to do this show. He changed his mind, and now he's not doing it. But I do wonder if the location is a factor. I mean, Japan is out of the way. It's not like it's a short trip. And then you consider the fact that I don't know why they do it this way, but they have it 2 months before the actual Olympia versus having it on the same weekend as the Olympia as like an extra category, where I feel like that would maybe be the better way to do it. If you did it on Olympia weekend in Vegas or wherever the Olympia is at on any given year, I feel like you'd probably have a lot more people that are already competing in the Olympia jump in that lineup as well, just to, extra prize money, another title. They're already there. They're already in shape anyway. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below about the Masters Olympia, about this Masters Olympia lineup. What do you think about the location, the timing, all that stuff? But my prediction, based on this lineup, I'm going with Phil Clahar for the win. Now, the final story that I've got for you guys today. Day 1 of the Texas Pro just wrapped up. In Classic Physique, a much-talked-about Classic Physique competitor, Matthews Menegate. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, but we just saw him compete this past weekend in Tampa, where he was runner-up to Niall Darwin. And I think he's got an incredible classic look. Watching the Classic Physique division at this Texas Pro, I was really impressed with him. I think he looked better than he looked in Tampa, and I think it kind of ties in with the first story, talking about Logan Franklin. I believe him and Logan have some kind of beef, or maybe not even beef, but I've seen some back and forth between the two of them. They kind of have similar physiques, honestly. And I've heard that there's a chance, even with this win, now he's qualified for the Olympia, that Matthias might also be going to the Florida Pro just to face Logan Franklin. And I think that would be an interesting showdown. I think his name is tripping me up. Matthias. He's got a great physique, and I think very comparable to Logan, very similar to Logan. I think that would be an interesting challenge for Logan. And just for reference, as you're watching this or looking at the pictures, Matthias is the tallest guy. Looks kind of similar to Chris Bumstead because he's got the Bumstead mustache, but he's the tallest guy in the lineup. And I think overall brought a great look here. Now that I can't unsee it now that I said he looks kind of like Chris Bumstead, his physique kind of does too. I'm looking at that vacuum pose, abs and thighs. I'm looking at that teacup pose. I can definitely see the similarities between him and Chris Bumstead. He's good. And I think that this serves as an interesting precursor to tomorrow's open bodybuilding show. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, click that bell notification icon if you have not already. And I'll see you guys tomorrow for the Texas Pro prejudging. As always, love you guys, appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power signing out. All right, guys, don't forget to click that like button and subscribe to this channel if you enjoy the content. Also, check out my Instagram at Nick Strength Power. My Facebook page, which is simply Nick Strength and Power. My secondary YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Vlogs, for vlogs and bonus content that you will not see on this channel. And consider subscribing to my third YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Pokemon, which is all things Pokemon and trading card games, completely unrelated to this channel. So if you're into that, give that one a look. And all links to merchandise and social media will be in the description box below. If you guys want a Nick Strength and Power t-shirt, that will be in the Shopify link below. Have a great day.